now listening to the Zay Moore Podcast.
I want to know what Zay thinks
There's a
about
few
that.
things that we got to address.
Black people got the swag. Black people set the trends. We are the culture. We got a reality star for our president. It's insane. Even if they try to erase black history out of schools, it's not going to erase black history. Because we've been here. Kendrick Lamar definitely beat Drake in that battle. Hands down. At the end of the day, I'm going to keep it real with my people. Because if we don't keep it real with each other, who will?
Yo, when I tell you it feels so good to be back on the mic, I feel like I've been going forever. It's only been, 4 days? Oh, man. But either way, I missed y'all, man. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Zay Moore Podcast. It's your boy, the one and only Zay Moore. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Today is October 5th. This is our first episode of the month. Can you believe it? I know. My bad, y'all. I've been a little busy. Had to take some time away working on my portfolio because we can't get picked up by major networks, right? If I don't, have the spaz, to show off in these meetings. So I got my portfolio done, planning a trip to New York, October 4th, and do some promotion out there. Finally get to see my little brother. I haven't seen my little brother in like 8 years. It's been a while, because I've been on the go. He's been on the go. We've kept in touch, but, that's definitely going to be a highlight, seeing my little brother doing some promotion out there. And, yeah, man, I'm definitely just glad to be back with y'all. Y'all know I got a good show curated, set up for y'all today. We're going to be going over a few trending topics, starting off with China opening a museum that's dedicated to African-American history and culture. I think that's amazing. Yeah, then we're going to pivot. We're going to pivot on to talking about D.C. suing Trump over the National Guard deployment. Next up, I got a story about comedian Druski. He's facing some backlash over his recent NASCAR whiteface skit. It was hilarious, but definitely some things to unpack there, and a history lesson in NASCAR and its root in racism. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We also going to cover some new music. We got a collaboration from Ice Spice and Latto. I believe the song titled is called Nat, right? G-Y-A-T-T, Nat? I don't know. We're going to cover that, though. We also have to talk about Ciara changing her son's last name to Wilson. There's been some divide about that. And last but not least, we are going to talk about Jordan Peele's upcoming film, highly anticipated horror film, Him, starring Marlon Wayans and Tyreek Withers. A lot to unpack there when we're talking about football, masculinity, trauma. A lot to get into. So I'm hoping that y'all are ready, tuned in, relaxed, and ready to get the show started. Let me get a clap. Thank you. All right, y'all, so let's get this show going. Let's talk about China opening up this museum. So, China announced it will open its first museum dedicated solely to African history and culture. The initiative, spearheaded by China's African Institute, is designed to strengthen ties with African nations and celebrate Africa's cultural heritage. The museum will feature African art, textiles, music, historical artifacts, and exhibits detailing the continent's struggles and triumphs. Officials note that the museum also aims to create a cultural exchange hub for students, researchers, and visitors from both Africa and China. Critics, however, raise questions about China's motives, pointing to its growing economic footprint across Africa. Supporters argue that the museum could foster mutual understanding and appreciation between continents. I think it's great. The more representation, the more history that we can get out there. Accurate history, right? Let me say that right there. Accurate history that we can get out there about the black community, the better. The more, the better. That's how I feel. When it comes to the motives, so far, I haven't seen any reports of any negative motives. Again, who knows, right? It's all in politics. It's all a big game. So you watch my back, I kind of watch yours. That's how it goes. So it very, very much well could be a power move, who knows, right? Who really knows what China's motive behind it was? However, what we can do, all we can do is take it for face value. And I think that in the midst of everything that's going on with Trump and the attack on museums and him feeling like all of the imagery and the history that they display is problematic when in actuality it's just the truth. This country does have a history rooted in racism and class and treating one race of people better than the other. That's just what it is. So I don't see it as problematic at all. I just see it as history, a way to inform and a way to move forward. So in the midst of him trying to do that, right, trying to take that history out of museums, I think China stepping up, taking the initiative to, open up this museum is dope, and I don't think anybody black is upset. I don't hear anybody saying we don't want that opened. I don't see why there would be any backlash. People just love to be outraged. So I say kudos to China. You feel me? The more, the better when it comes to educating people on black culture and how far we've come and what we've been through and how strong our ancestors were. I think that, that is necessary. So again, shout out to China. And I can't wait. All right, y'all. So next up, we got DC suing Trump over the National Guard administration. Now, we talked about this a little bit a few pods ago, and, I gave y'all the rundown on why this, was just a bad idea from a political view and a civilian view. But to sum it up, currently, Washington, D.C. has filed this lawsuit against Trump over the deployment of National Guard troops to the city. The suit claims the move violated the Home Rule Act by overriding municipal authority and imposing military presence in civilian spaces. I want to go to CBS News really quick with the story, and then I'll be right back.
Washington, D.C. has sued the Trump administration, challenging President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops in the district. Officials are alleging that the president's deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops to the nation's capital was an illegal use of the military for domestic law enforcement. The suit comes as the Trump administration has said it might expand the use of the National Guard in other major cities. Let's bring in CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe now. Ed, very good to see you as always. What is the White House saying about this particular lawsuit?
Yeah, well, a notable filing there by the Attorney General of the District of Columbia saying it's an unconstitutional involuntary military occupation. But the White House turns around and says in part that the president is, quote, well within his lawful authority to deploy the National Guard in Washington. And they add that the lawsuit is an attempt to, quote, undermine the president's operation. But important to point out, just 2 days ago, a federal court in Los Angeles, in California, raised similar concerns about the legality of the president's deployment or use of National Guard in Los Angeles earlier this summer. So at some point, all of this is likely to end up in front of the Supreme Court. But the district now arguing that this is happening against the will of those that live here, especially telling that so many of these Guard have come from outside the District of Columbia, aren't familiar with this area, and therefore are sort of participating in what amounts, in their view, again, to an unconstitutional occupation.
Well, even as this lawsuit unfolds today, the interim commanding general of D.C.'s National Guard announced that there's been an extension of the Guard's mission in the nation's capital. I'm going to ask you about that, but first have a listen to what he had to say.
I've made the decision to extend the encampment as we continue to work to ensure that everyone that walks through these city streets is safe.
So, Ed, what is the reason behind this latest move?
Well, it's notable that the White House is, in essence, referring questions about this to the Army, to the Pentagon, which is sort of now suggesting that they're trying to put some separation here between the White House calling for this and the professionals who actually do these deployments and oversee it all, suggesting it needs to continue. Remember, we have done an analysis of the crime statistics here at CBS News that showed that in those first 2 weeks of the federal deployment, there were continued drops in virtually every single type of crime here in the District of Columbia. It had already been trending down by double digits this year, but that slide continued because of this deployment. So, in essence, the director, or the commander of the D.C. Guard saying it's going to continue at least until November is an acknowledgement by local leaders, at least, that it is continuing. And remember, the mayor herself had suggested, while there are concerns about this, while they want to establish sort of how this is going to wind down, even she had to acknowledge that the numbers are continuing to go down because of this beefed up presence of law enforcement and military in the streets of the nation's capital.
All right, y'all. Shout out to CBS News again for that story. But again, we talked about this a few pods ago, and I think even then, I said that this was nothing but him undermining local authority. It was a use of force for political theater, because a lot of people, not just me, feel that it was just an abuse of, military force for political optics, not really public safety. And the bottom line, of this is that his deployment of the National Guard in D.C., it actually did more harm than good, because it actually escalated tensions. It bypassed local authority, and it chilled free speech. It's all while failing to address the underlying issues that people were really protesting about, the real core. So, yeah, I hope they win. I really do. I hope they win. And, I hope that this will teach him a lesson, if they do win, that, maybe I can't do anything that I want to do because I have money. Because I'm taking the presidential view of it away. Because this is clearly just power, and I can do it because I can type. So good luck to DC, and we will be following this story. I'll let y'all know how it goes. Okay, y'all, so I'm really eager to go over this next story because I learned a lot while I was doing my research here. And right now we're going to get into Druski and the backlash he's facing for the NASCAR whiteface skit. So just to sum it up, comedian Druski is under fire after a NASCAR performance where he appeared in whiteface makeup, portraying an exaggerated stereotype of a Southern white man. The skit included Druski wearing pale makeup, cowboy attire, and adopting an over-the-top accent. While some fans praised the performance as sharp satire and highlighted the impressive makeup work, many criticized it as racially insensitive. Where have we heard that before, right? But the skit was hilarious. Go ahead and listen to this. Listen to this little clip, y'all, and I'll be right back. Yo, that shit was hilarious. Okay, I ain't even gonna lie to you. It was hilarious. You got to see the video to really get the full effect of it. But a particularly controversial moment in the video involved Druski spitting near a group of black attendees, which some viewed as crossing a line. Social media reactions remain polarized, with debates about double standards and racial comedy. The incident has reignited conversations about whether satire can reinforce harmful stereotypes even when intended as parody. So y'all know we in a real sensitive time right now, right? We not in a time where Marlon, when Marlon and Sean put out White Chicks, you feel me? And people just wanted to laugh. Now everyone is so sensitive because of the state of the world. I don't even blame people for real. I did at one point. But, when we look at everything that's going on right now, shit, I would be sensitive as fuck too. So, I get it, but I don't. But I was excited to cover this story because when I took a look at the history of NASCAR, I was like, wow, wow, I had no idea. So NASCAR was founded in 1948, for those that don't know, in the Jim Crow South. Segregation laws were still in place during this time. So just keep that in mind. It was largely associated with only Southern white culture. And get this, right? So a lot of the early NASCAR racers, they were actually what used to be called moonshine runners turned racers. Moonshine runners turned racers. Moonshine runners transported illegal distilled spirits, moonshine, within Wilkes County, North Carolina, and Franklin County. So a lot of them were former criminals, in a sense, right, who used their modified car and driving skills to outrun law enforcement, y'all. So they were basically using their skills from when they were on the road moving the illegal liquor, and I guess it was like, yo, you know what, let's start a racing league, and then boom, you have NASCAR, right? The nerve of you to yo anyway, so to move on, right, when it comes to the racism that was within the league, again, right, it was founded within 1948 in the Jim Crow South. So just only imagine, if you know what Jim Crow is, what black people probably faced trying to get into the league or, whatever. But black drivers were largely excluded due to systematic racism, lack of sponsorship, and outright hostility. plain disrespect. In 1963, however, we did have Wendell Scott, who became the first black driver to win a NASCAR Premier Series race. But get this, he faced racial slurs from the fans, sabotage and lack of support from officials, and delayed recognition. This man wasn't awarded his trophy until 58 years later, 2021 to be exact. Let me repeat that. He won the race in 1963, y'all. First black driver to win a NASCAR Premier Series race. You feel me? And he wasn't awarded until 2021. That's crazy. Out of pocket. Diabolical. Disrespectful. Period. That's crazy. During the 1970s, right, and 1990s, there was slight improvement. Only a handful of black drivers, even then, though, like Willie T. Ribbs. If you do some research, look him up. But he attempted to break into NASCAR, but he faced threats, denial of opportunities, all that. Fans and sponsors often actually refused to support black drivers, so that reinforced the systemic barriers that were already there. And get this, y'all, Confederate flags were a dominant part of NASCAR culture at events, symbolizing exclusion for many fans of color. Many. We got to go on to say drivers of other minority groups, Latino, Asian American, also rarely got the same pushback and, lack of support that the blacks did. Then came the 2000s where there was, again, slow progress. NASCAR launched this Drive for Diversity program in 2004 to recruit women and minority drivers. There was some progress with drivers like Daniel Suarez, who was a Mexican. We have Kyle Larson, Japanese American, and Bubba Wallace, who was black, entering the scene. Still, though, people kind of took a side out to this because it was pretty much underfunded and appeared to be more of a symbolic move than a structural, impactful move per se. So within the 2010s and the 2020s came the Bubba Wallace and the cultural attention. Bubba Wallace became the most visible black NASCAR driver within that time. And in 2020, during the George Floyd protests, he spoke out against racism and called for the removal of Confederate flags at races. So this was still a thing. NASCAR officially banned Confederate flags in June 2020, sparking backlash from some fans and drivers. So we have people who are so rooted in their racism and their bigotry that they were upset about the removal of a flag that stands for, in my opinion, death and, the overtake of other people. It's sickening. It's stupid. Later that year, a rope shaped like a noose, y'all. A rope shaped like a noose was found in Wallace's garage. The FBI ruled that it wasn't a hate crime. Are you fucking serious? It wasn't a hate crime, but a garage pull rope. Yet the incident underscored racial tensions in the sport, as it should. As it should. I mean, it was a fucking noose. Like stop trying to sugarcoat shit. I hate when they do that. So there are ongoing issues as of today. The fan culture, NASCAR is still battling this whole perception as it being a white Southern sport, and attendance among black and Latino fans is still low, even though we have that little spark of visibility that's going on there. And so far as representation, out of hundreds of drivers, only a tiny fraction are black or people of color. Sponsorship gaps also, still exist. Drivers of color often struggle to secure long-term sponsors, which are essential for racing careers. As you know, I mean, that's in any, sport, especially when you're a public figure, they really pushing you out there. Endorsements and brand deals is the way to go. The microaggressions and the hostility, Bubba Wallace frequently receives racist abuse online. This hasn't stopped. He's still receiving the racist abuse, and other minority drivers report being othered in racing cultures outside of NASCAR, so going back to the Druski skit, right? Because a hit dog will holler. And, I had read, let me get my notes here. Hold on, y'all. So I had read, someone said on Twitter, white face is just as bad as black face. Druski is a racist. I don't think Druski's a racist. I think because of what's going on in the world right now, you feel me? Politically, yeah, we are in a more sensitive space. And unfortunately, you know, we have people who are still rooted in those Confederate views. And just like we are going to stand for something, so are they. And if they're rooted in that, you know, they are rooted in that. From a PR standpoint, okay, because y'all know I'm also into music and the social media and all of that. From a PR standpoint, if I was Druski's manager, you know, I would have just sat down and kind of, well, you know, I'm sure that they had a conversation. You feel me? I knew Druski's not dumb. He knew that there was going to be a divide. He knew that there was going to be a backlash. Just like Marlon and Sean are not dumb. You know, when they did White Chicks, you had a few people who were offended. But the majority, again, back then we were in a different time, different space politically, a different space worldly, you feel me? And people could just laugh. You know, people could just look at something and laugh. Look at all of the satire that Dave Chappelle did, you feel me? And when you watch his show, he had a mixture of people in his crowd, you feel me? It was white people, black people, Asian people, Indian people, and Dave Chappelle attacked everybody. You feel me? So again, everything that's going on in the world is just making people a little bit more sensitive. I don't think Druski is a racist. And I think, again, a hit dog will holler. And a lot of what he displayed, you know, the spitting at the black people while they walk past, and I'm proud to be an American, and all that shit. That's what the NASCAR culture was. You feel me? When it first started, based on what I'm seeing. So what are y'all really mad about? And to go back to the whole, it's racist, you know, white face is just as bad as black face. It is. I'm not gonna say that it's not, right? Because that would be a double standard. It would be a double standard to say that one is right and one is wrong, or one is right and one isn't, right? But come on now, if you take a look, if you take your head out of the woke space and you put back on your happy head, right? Your happy hat, you will see the laughter in that. I don't think his goal was to go out and be racist. You feel me? And that's a big difference in what the goals were during the Jim Crow era, when people did do blackface because their intent was to be racist. You feel me? Because their intent was to demean another group. It's a big difference. You know, so that's also something to highlight. You know, I feel like the intent behind what he did does not match the intent of the history of blackface, and it's just, it has such a demeaning history that unfortunately now, even if a white comedian did it, it would still kind of be like, you know, it just kind of like, it would still be tasteless, because of the historical context of it coming from that particular person or group of people. So, you know, there's a lot of context here. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of racial undertones. And again, a hit dog will holler. That's all I'm going to say. I think the skit was hilarious. I don't think Druski's racist at all. And yeah, I'm happy that this is getting him notoriety. You feel me? I hope that it gets more eyes on him. So shout out to Druski. All right, so let's talk about some new music, y'all. Let's talk about some new music. So if you keep up with Ice Spice and Latto at all, they did drop a collaboration today. The collaboration, like I said, I know I'm fucking up the name of the song. I think it's called Nyat. Nyat, right? Is that it? Nyat. Gytt. Yo, if I'm butchering the name of the song, y'all call me, send me a DM, tell me how to pronounce this. But I'm gonna say Nyat. I think that's what I'm looking at right now. But Nyat released alongside professional theme video directed by Hijid World. The video features dramatic entrances, stage wrestling matches, and celebrity cameos from Deshae Frost, Tylo James, and Janae Craig. The collaboration marks the first time the two artists have worked together, ending months of rumor tension and rivalry. Lyrically, the song contains playful bars that reference competition, but ultimately emphasizes empowerment and unity. I didn't really get the empowerment. It's a dope record for them. You feel me? But I didn't. I don't. We got to be careful on slapping the word empowerment on everything. Because what if that wasn't their goal? You feel me? I don't think everybody is born to be this righteous, we are the world type of person. And I think we get too comfortable just applying, these titles to people, like giving out honorary degrees. It's just bullshit to me. You feel me? Why are we giving? Anyway, I just didn't see the empowerment angle. I see the unity angle. You feel me? Definitely, I'm pretty sure a nice bag came from it. But I mean, come on now, let's stop slapping the word empowerment on everything. I don't think that my sisters are trying to be Madam C.J. Walker or Harriet Tubman right now. But music critics note that the collaboration signals growth for both artists and may redefine female rap dynamics going into 2026. Yeah, again, this is good, right? Because I hate when they try to put the females against each other. Since the test of time, they've been doing shit like that, and a lot of it is for male gratitude. Unfortunately, I just got to keep it real. But I'm glad that women are changing the narrative. They're taking control of their careers, their lyrics, their bodies. I think it's dope. Fans flooded social media celebrating the release, with many calling it one of the most entertaining videos of the year. It's a dope video. You feel me? They both look good. Personally, the song for me is probably gonna be a slow burn. And I usually like everything that both of them do, but I just have to give it a few more listens. Yeah, it'll probably be on me. But, I'm already, humming a little bit when I hear, you got that. Yeah, you got that. Yeah. It's a dope record. So shout out to Ice Spice, shout out to Latto. I hope it does well for them. Yes, sir. So we're not going to spend too much time on this because it's really not that big of a deal, but people seem to be outraged about it. So we're going to talk about Ciara changing her son's last name to Wilson, y'all. She's legally changed her son Future Zay's last name from Wilburn. His father is rapper Future, which is Future's last name, to Wilson, which of course is her husband Russell's last name, taking his surname. Court records confirmed the name change, making him legally Future Zay Wilson. The move reflects the close relationship between Russell and Ciara's son, as well as Ciara's desire to unify the family under one name. The decision sparked debate online, with some applauding the change as a symbol of stability and love, while others criticized it as disrespectful to the child's biological father. Nonetheless, Ciara emphasized in interviews that the change was about honoring her family's bond and providing consistency for her son. So, again, I don't see what the outrage is about, right? For one, we don't know what kind of conversations or what goes on in the life of Ciara and the life of Russell and the life of Future. They could have all had a conversation about this and y'all outraged. Let it go. Get a job. But I know that in many communities, carrying the father's surname is seen as a matter of pride, right? In a sense, you got the lineage, you got, respect, all that is tied into taking your father's last name. But what do you do when your father isn't the one who is teaching you the principles of pride and, respect and, how to be a given person to society? You feel me? Like, what do you do when he's not the person teaching you that? And your mom happens to find someone that loves her dearly. You feel me? And he stepped in. He's raising me since I was little. Because keep in mind, right, when Future and Ciara broke up, baby Future, well, he's not a baby no more. Little Future, he was little. You feel me? So his knowledge of a father is more so Russell, not Future. You feel me? And it's not like this is any play tom with Ciara and Russell. You feel me? I feel like their love and their bond is solid. I feel like a lot of people are just jealous of the shit, to be honest, especially the niggas who are calling him corny. I think that is really corny. You feel me? One, because just because somebody don't move like you, just because somebody don't have the same mannerisms like you, just because somebody isn't as disheveled as you doesn't make them corny. You feel me? I think this idea of if you're not urban or quote unquote what is deemed cool, you corny, and you almost 40 years old is corny to me. I don't know the dude's name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. You feel me? Yeah. But anyway, I think that a lot of people are jealous of their love. We do know Future has 7 children with 7 different baby mothers. So he's had this rep as a toxic partner, and who knows, right? That may not be to any fault of his own, because I always say we only can do, or we are only as good as where we come from sometimes, right? And if he grew up in a situation where he didn't have the proper representation of what a man should be and what a man should do, and then you get into the industry, you get all this money, what do you think is going to happen? You feel me? He fell between a lot of legs. He fell between a lot of legs, and he created a lot of kids. And I'm pretty sure, he's had some self-revelation at this point. You feel me? Any human being would after 7 kids with 7 different women. So I don't really see the big deal in the name change. People are saying that Ciara is erasing Future's role as the child's biological father, and of course we all know that's bullshit, because you can't erase biology. You can't ignore biology, even though we in a time now where people try to. It is what it is when it comes to DNA, when it comes to being someone's biological parent. So none of that matters. However, right, I do wonder how he feels about it, when he's by himself, because again, I'm pretty sure that Ciara informed him. I mean, she don't really have to, but Ciara don't seem like the type of person that moves like that. I'm pretty sure she had some sort of conversation with Future. And I don't know this, right, but I'm just a legend based on the beautiful, sweet person that I know Ciara to be. But I don't see her erasing this man's legacy at all. Like I said, he's still going to be his father, but the fact of the matter is that he did not fully raise his son, and his son knows another man as his father, or his values. The person that he's going to be is going to be based on the things he's learning in the home with Russell, not from, what he's learning from his father. So I say all that to say, back off Ciara. I don't think she's doing this maliciously at all. I just feel like she wants to unify her family, and she has every right to do so. So shout out to the Wilsons. Yes. And I want to, before we go, just on that unify piece, right? Because we do have this thing, and, people sometimes say when they're defending people who have a lot of kids outside of marriage, which is cool, right? I'm not really against it, because I'm not a Bible swinging Christian, but I do feel like there is a conversation to be had around creating so many broken homes, right? Because I think what Ciara really was trying to do was bridge that gap for her son. You feel me? Because keep in mind, her children with Russell, they do, of course, have his last name that symbolizes that unity within their family, within their lives. With Future, it's a little different. You feel me? His father is someone else. It wasn't in his life as much. Now he does have a father who's been in his life for many, many years. From a personal level, because when I think about this story, I can think back to when I was a kid, right? And kids would ask me in school, why do you have a different last name than your brother? Because on my mom's side, I have 3 brothers. I have 2 brothers. It's a lot of us. So it's 2 of us on my mom's side, and I have 3 brothers on my dad's side, 2 sisters. So altogether, that's 7 siblings. I didn't meet my dad's side of the family until I was 17. And if y'all want a little bit more about that, go back, listen to my trauma episode, deep dive. We definitely went over a little bit more of my personal history. But, I can remember not being able to answer questions like that, or like feeling weird, you feel me, when, I would see people come be picked up by their dad, and, I was sitting there, people would ask me where my dad is, and, or my little brother's father will come get him. And, it's definitely a heavy weight to hold as a child. And that unfortunately does trickle into adulthood. You feel me? And we went over that again in the trauma episode. So definitely go take a listen, guys, if you haven't. But I say all that to say, I think that what Ciara did was for the betterment of her child. Feel me? She wasn't trying to be malicious. She wasn't erasing nobody's history. I mean, Future's Future. You feel me? We will always know his father is Future, the rapper, and he's his biological father. So that's impossible. I just feel like this is going to work out better for him. He'll feel more whole. He'll feel complete. And that's really what the goal is. It's all about the kids once you make that decision to have one. You feel me? That's really what it should be about. And every decision you make should be in the betterment of that child. So, again, get off of Ciara's back, y'all. Get over her back. So how many of y'all are excited for Jordan Peele's new movie, Him? That shit looks crazy. I watched the trailer a few times. Academy Award-winning filmmaker Jordan Peele is producing a supernatural sports horror film titled Him. The movie follows a rising quarterback whose promising career takes a terrifying supernatural turn after he becomes entangled with dark forces. Directed by Justin Tipping, the film stars Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans in leading roles. The project has been highly anticipated due to Peele's track record of blending horror with cultural commentary. Early buzz suggests Him will merge the high-stakes world of football with psychological terror, exploring themes of ambition, masculinity, and identity. Fans remain eager, expecting Peele to deliver another thought-provoking entry into modern horror cinema. And this releases on September 19th, guys. I'm really excited to see it because I think it's gonna give us a look into some of the things that these football players face. You feel me? Like CTE, masculinity exceptions, hyper masculinity culture, that macho image that leaves no room for non-traditional masculinity. Definitely something to talk about there. And we can't forget the injuries, the brain trauma, the painkiller dependence. It's just a triple intersection of challenges that they face. The mental health strain, the navigating rigid gender and sexual norms, the long-term physical health consequences, all that. It looks like what Peele is going to do is add a dark undertone to it, really highlighting the effect that it can have on a player. And I'm excited to see how he blends those worlds. That psychological terror aspect of it, and just the effect that it has on the player. It just looks like he's gonna do an amazing job. So I just wanted to spotlight this film because y'all should definitely go and support it. I mean, we got to support all our black filmmakers, all our black creatives. I say that all the time. That's one of the main reasons I created this podcast. So I'm not even getting paid for this little segment right here. I just wanted to promote the film because it looks that good. And we all got to go and see this film on September 19th. Put that on your calendar. Go see Him September 19th, y'all. But y'all know what that sound means right there. That means we made it to the end of the episode. Yeah. I want to thank y'all so much for tuning in to a brand new episode of the Zay Moore Podcast. Y'all know I appreciate it so much. I got to shout out the United States. I got to shout out United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, India, Ireland, Germany. Everybody who is listening, y'all don't know what it means to me so much that y'all tune in and y'all wait for me to deliver the goods. It means a lot. I want to remind y'all to follow me at the ZayFiles_ on Instagram, at the Zay Moore Podcast on Instagram, so you can stay up to date on the latest with me. Again, I will be in New York October 4th doing some promotions. So hit me up. Let's talk. Like let's get into some things while I'm out there in New York. But again, I want to thank y'all so much for being a part of the Zay Moore family. And until next time, y'all know what it is. Peace.